Long ago, in a great kingdom, there lived a king named Dima. King Dima had two daughters. The older daughter was named Arfat. She was very beautiful, but she loved talking, spending money, and living in comfort. The younger daughter was named Ramlat. She was also beautiful, but she was quiet, patient, and wise. One day, a very rich man came to the palace and asked to marry Arfat. King Dima was happy. Soon, a great wedding was prepared. The palace was full of music, drums, food, dancing, and colorful clothes. People came from far away to see the celebration. Arfat smiled proudly as she married the rich man. But after the wedding was over, Ramlat became lonely. Her sister had left, and the palace no longer felt the same. King Dima saw the sadness in her eyes, so he often visited her room to speak with her. One evening, while talking with Ramlat, the king noticed a wooden board hanging on the wall. On the board were these words: "A home with a wise woman will always grow and succeed." The king looked at Ramlat. "Who taught you these words?" he asked. Ramlat smiled softly. "No one, father," she said. "I believe it is true." The king frowned. "How can that be?" he asked. "This palace is rich and successful because I am the king." Ramlat gently shook her head. "No, father," she said. "This palace is successful because of the wisdom of our mother." The king became very angry. He felt that Ramlat had insulted him. Without saying another word, he left the room. That night, King Dima made a decision. He would teach Ramlat a lesson. He would marry her to the poorest man in the kingdom. Far away from the palace lived a poor woodcutter named Nandu. Nandu lived alone in a small, broken house near the forest. Every day, he carried his axe into the forest, cut wood, and sold it just to buy food. The next day, the king called Nandu to the palace. "Nandu," said the king, "you will marry my daughter, Ramlat." Nandu was shocked. "Your Majesty," he said, "I am only a poor man. I cannot care for a princess." But the king answered, "You have no choice." So Nandu agreed. The wedding was small and quiet. There was no music. There was no joy. After the wedding, Ramlat followed Nandu to his little house. The roof was broken. The walls were cracked. There was almost nothing inside. Ramlat stood at the door and looked around slowly. Her heart was heavy, but she lifted her chin and made a quiet decision. "I will not let sadness build this home. Wisdom will." She did not complain. Every morning, Nandu went to the forest. Every evening, he returned with a little wood and a little food. One night, Ramlat looked at him and said,
"My husband, if we spend all our money every day, we will always stay poor. Let us save part of it." Nandu listened carefully, though doubt crossed his face. "But some days we barely have enough," he said. "I know," Ramlat answered gently. "That is exactly why we must be careful with every coin." Nandu thought about it for a long moment. Then he nodded. "We will use some money for food," Ramlat continued, "and save the rest. When we have enough, we will buy another axe, and I will work beside you." Day after day, they saved their money. It was not easy. Some evenings they ate very little, but they did not give up. At last they bought another axe. Now Ramlat went to the forest with Nandu. Together, they cut more wood than before. Slowly, they began to earn more money. Then one day, Ramlat had another idea. "My husband," she said, "if we buy a grinding stone, I can grind wheat for people and earn even more money." Again, Nandu listened. But this time, he did not hesitate. He had seen with his own eyes that her ideas worked. "Let us do it," he said. They bought the grinding stone. Soon, Ramlat was grinding wheat every day while Nandu worked in the forest. Now they had enough food, and they could save more money than before. Nandu stopped selling all the wood he cut. Instead, he began to keep a large pile of wood beside the house. It was his own idea, and Ramlot smiled when she saw it growing. "You are thinking ahead," she said. Nandu smiled back. "I learned it from you." Then one year, during the cold season, a traveling king came through the kingdom with many servants. The servants needed firewood to make a fire. As they searched the village, they saw the large pile of wood beside Nandu's house. They bought every piece of it. For the first time in his life, Nandu had a lot of money. He and Ramlot were very happy. Not long after that, Nandu found a strange tree in the forest. Its wood was smooth and smelled sweet. He carried a branch home. The moment Ramlot saw it, she smiled. "My husband," she said, "this is sandalwood. It is rare and very valuable. Please collect more of it." Because Ramlot had grown up in the palace, she knew that kings used sandalwood during great ceremonies. So every day, Nandu brought home more sandalwood, and they stored it carefully. Soon, they had a large pile of it. Then news came from a nearby kingdom. The king there had died, and before he passed, he asked for sandalwood to be used at his funeral. But no one could find enough. Then someone remembered Nandu. Very quickly, the prince sent his servants to their house. "Name your price," they said. Nandu looked at Ramlot. She gave a small nod. He named a fair price, and the servants paid without argument. In one day, he and Ramlot became rich. With their money, they built a beautiful house. It was large, with many rooms and wide courtyards. It looked almost like a palace. Back in his own palace, King Dima often thought about Ramlot. He thought about her words. He thought about the wooden board on her wall. Each time, the memory made him uncomfortable, because deep inside, he knew she had been right. At last, he decided to visit both of his daughters. First, he went to see Arfat. But when he arrived, he was surprised. The house was untidy. The servants were gone. Arfat had spent too much money, and her husband had become poor. King Dima left with sadness in his heart. Then, on his way home, he heard that a woodcutter had built a great new house, finer than many nobles owned. The king was invited to visit. When he arrived, he looked at the beautiful house in amazement. Then the door opened, and there stood Ramlot. She wore beautiful clothes, and there was peace in her eyes. "Welcome, father," she said. The king could hardly speak. "My daughter," he said at last, "is this really your house?" "Yes, father," Ramlot answered. "Come inside." Then she told him everything. She told him how they saved money, worked hard, and made wise choices together. She spoke without anger, without pride, just truth. When she finished, King Dima was quiet for a long time. Then slowly he lowered his head. "You were right," he said. "From the very beginning, you were right." And in that moment, King Dima finally understood the words on the wooden board. A home with a wise woman will always grow and succeed. From that day on, he never forgot the lesson his daughter had taught him. And Ramlot and Nandu lived with purpose, with partnership, and with peace.